welcome back to the channel. I am back with another 50 questions of the INICET PYQ series. And today's topic is esophagus, the very important topic under the GIT sections of the surgery. So let's get started. Today we will cover these topics of the GIT in the esophagus section. Now post 2019, the GIT section's weightage in the INICET exam has significantly increased, and there are few topics like esophagus, the gallbladder and the liver and the colon are the most important topics that needs to be definitely done for the paper. So the first topic is ecclesia cardia. 8 questions have been asked from this topic in 6 unique ways. So this makes it a very important topic of the esophagus section. The first question is, what is Heller's operation done for? See, Heller's operation is the treatment of choice for ecclesia cardia. Now the other options are carcinoma esophagus, for which esophagectomy or endoscopic SMR or CT or radiotherapy is mostly preferred choice. For esophageal strictures and pyloric stenosis, mostly balloon dilatations or esophagectomies or removals are the preferred choices. Now have a look at this diagram. For ecclesia cardia, we mostly prefer Heller's myotomy. This is a very simple procedure. Here we just make a nick into the ligaments or the muscle here of the G junction. But the most important complication of this is GERD. In order to prevent that, we do partial fundoplication, and that is known as the Dawes operation. We just move the cardiac or the fundus portion of the esophagus around it so that GERD doesn't happen. So just remember that the treatment of choice is Heller's myotomy with partial fundoplication. Just have a look at the treatment. The medical management includes the calcium channel blockers or nitrates, but the preferred is this. In the surgical, we can do balloon dilatation, Heller's myotomy, which is a treatment of choice, and the peroral esophageal myotomy, which is a new technique that has recently been introduced. Now look at this diagram. Second question. Middle-aged men presents with progressive difficulty in swallowing for both liquids and solids for 8 months. The barium swallow is shown below. What other investigation needs to be done? See, if they have already done the barium swallow, the next investigation for ecclesia cardia is the upper GI endoscopy and manometry. Now first of all, this barium swallow is showing a bird beak appearance or the rat tail appearance. So the diagnosis is ecclesia cardia, and since barium swallow has been done, so the next investigation will be endoscopy and manometry. Now let's quickly look at the investigations of the ecclesia cardia. The first investigation we do is endoscopy. So the endoscope will be easily able to pass through the sphincter. Investigation of choice is the barium swallow, where you will find the bird beak or the rat tail appearance. Just remember that in the esophagus, all the anatomical variations, the investigation of choice will be barium swallow. Since it is an anatomical it is not an anatomical abnormality, still its investigation of choice is barium swallow. And the gold standard is the manometry. Now in the manometry, there is a very important classification known as Chicago classification. I need all of you to read this thoroughly because questions about it has been asked in the NEET section. Now how will you differentiate in the endoscopy whether it is a ecclesia cardia or a carcinoma esophagus, which are the closure DDs to each other? If the esophagoscope is easily able to pass through it, then the next investigation we'll do is manometry. And in the endoscope, if growth is seen, it is mostly carcinoma esophagus, and the investigation next we'll do is biopsy. So I'll teach you in detail about the investigations and the treatment for the carcinoma esophagus. Just look at the Chicago classification, which is very important, and it is a potential question for the INICET. Now another very important question for this topic. Which investigation is not necessary for the following condition? See, again it is a bird beak appearance, so it is ecclesia cardia or carcinoma esophagus, we don't know. But what is not necessary here is the 24-hour pH monitoring. See, we will do barium study, for both as achalasia as well as carcinoma, we'll do endoscopy, which is the investigation of choice for carcinoma as well as the first investigation for achalasia, and esophageal manometry can be done for achalasia cardia. So what should not be done is monitoring. So this question could be answered by excluding the option. See, these type of questions, that is which is not necessary, are specifically being asked in the recent time. Similarly, a potential question can be from a diverticular section where they will ask which investigation is not at all necessary for that condition, and the answer would be CT. Just remember it, it is very important. Now, what is achalasia cardia? Achalasia cardia, in achalasia cardia, there is no anatomical abnormality, neither the tone is abnormal. The tone is absolutely normal, it's just the tone fails to reduce. What does that mean? If the normal tone is 25 mmHg and during swallowing the tone reduces to less than 2 mmHg, so in achalasia cardia it will not fail, it will not relax during swallowing. So then we say the tone fails to reduce. So because of that, dysphagia occurs. Now, as I told you that Chicago classification is very important, so let's quickly revise it. See, there are 3 categories, 1, 2 and 3. In the first, the lower esophageal sphincter is non-relaxing, the peristalsis are absent, but the pressure is absolutely normal. In the second, the pressure is high, but the pan-esophageal pressure will be more than 20% of the swallowing. And in the third category, again the pressure will be high, but this time the distal spastic pressure will be more than 20% and the distal latency will be less than 4.5 seconds. Now, the second category has the best prognosis, but the third category has the worst because the disease is specifically in the lower section. Now look at the next question. A young patient presents with a history of dysphagia, more to liquids than to solid. The first investigation, I just now told you, endoscopy. See, it is more to liquids. If this is in the question, it is definitely achalasia cardia. We'll do the difference between achalasia cardia and carcinoma esophagus quickly below. Now next question, a 40-year-old woman presents with dysphagia to both liquid and solid and regurgitation for 3 months. The dysphagia is non-progressive. The diagnosis, see, the closure DDs I told you is achalasia or carcinoma esophagus, but the main difference is that if the dysphagia is non-progressive, it is achalasia, but if the dysphagia is fast and progressive, it is most probably carcinoma esophagus. Now let's quickly do the difference between the achalasia cardia and the carcinoma esophagus. First, clinically, achalasia cardia in the questions will be represented as slow and non-progressive dysphagia. There will be a young patient and the dysphagia will more first be to liquids and not to solids. In carcinoma esophagus, it will be opposite. It will be fast progressive in old age patients and first to solid and then progressing to the liquids. So just remember this major difference. In the endoscopy will easily pass through the lower esophageal sphincter because the tone is normal, it just fails to relax. Whereas in the endoscopy of the carcinoma esophagus, there we will be able to see a growth. Irregular margins and strictures and shouldering will be able to see. And in the barium swallow, in both we will be able to see the bird beak appearance. But in the carcinoma esophagus, we'll specifically see the apple core deformities. Now with this, let's do the next topic, and that is carcinoma esophagus. Now, this is also a very important topic. 12 questions have been asked in 8 unique ways. Now the first question, most common site of carcinoma esophagus in India is the middle 1/3. We all know this. But for squamous cell carcinoma, it is still middle 1/3, and this is most common carcinoma esophagus in Asian population. And for adenos, the site changes and it becomes lower 1/3. Now remember, this is the most common in white males. Next, the same questions, I put it here in order to make you understand the difference between the two. Next, the transhiatal esophagectomy was planned for adenocarcinoma of the lower end of the esophagus. What was the appropriate approach? In the options, they gave the different approaches like abdomen, neck, transhiatal, thorax, etc. So the answer would be abdomen and neck. Now let's quickly do the 3 different types of esophagectomies, which is the treatment of choice in case of surgical approach to carcinoma esophagus. So there are 3 approaches. First is the Oringer's, second is the Ivor-Lewis, and the third is McQueen. Just remember that in McQueen, 3 incisions are made. The 3 incisions are in abdomen, right thorax and left neck. So first we will do the posterolateral thoracotomy, followed by laparotomy, followed by neck incision. But in the Oringers, which is also known as a transhiatal approach, incision is only made in the abdomen and neck, and no incision is made in the thorax. That is, no thoracotomy is done. So anastomosis done here is in the neck. Similarly, in the Ivor Lewis, 2 incisions are done, one in the abdomen and one for the posterolateral right thoracotomy. No incision here is done in the neck, so the anastomotic site will be thorax. Now, for all the 3, the most common cause of death would be anastomotic leak leading to mediastinitis. I want all of you to just mug up this table because it is very important. Now next, most common cause of esophagitis is esophageal reflex. This is just a one-liner. Now, very important and a favorite questions of INICET, the predisposing factors for carcinoma esophagus. So let's quickly look at these. First is the diet, vitamin C and molybdenum deficiency, hot beverages, smoked fishes, smoking and alcohol, Zenker's diverticula, Plummer-Wilson's, Ecclesia cardia and Barrett's for adenocarcinoma only. And similarly, H. pylori for squamous cell carcinoma. So these 2 you must remember. Then HPV, caustic injuries, specifically the alkaline injuries, and familial may certain syndromes like tylosis, Blooms and Fanconi's. Now these questions have been asked in the NEET in the FMG paper. Now another question, in esophageal cancer, prognosis is best determined by. Now they're asking prognosis. Now prognosis is determined by the T staging. So the answer will be T staging. See, not by age of the patient or the length of the involvement. These are irrelevant. Another very important point, that if the stage is more than T4B, then we go for the palliative treatment. There is no correct surgery or chemoradiotherapy treatment in such cases. Only palliation is the treatment, and in them we go for the stenting. Now let's quickly look at the difference between the squamous cell carcinoma and the adenocarcinoma. See, it is mostly in the Afro-American men, that is Asian population. It is in the middle 1/3. H. pylori is the risk factor. Mostly the growth is exophytic lesions with fungating masses. And very important point is the squamous cell carcinomas are sensitive to chemoradiotherapy, and therefore we mostly follow the non-surgical treatment. In adenocarcinomas, most common is white male. The risk factors are Barrett's and obesity. These are specific for adeno. We will mostly see infiltrative and fungating. See, infiltrative. And these are not sensitive to chemoradiotherapy. So the treatment mostly lies either if the stage is more than in palliation or through aggressive surgical approach. So just remember. Now another very important is the investigation. The first investigation and the investigation of choice both are endoscopy biopsy. Now only if the dysphagia is very severe we do the barium swallow, where we find the typical bird beak or the rat tail appearance. For T and N staging, the best investigation is the endoscopic ultrasound. Just remember this. It has been asked in the NEET exam. For the M staging, the best investigation is the 18 FTG PET scan. And for overall staging, we do the PET CT. So just mug up these 3 lines. Now just quickly have a look at the treatment options in high grade dysplasia, that is TI and T1A. We do the endoscopic mucosal resection. In localized esophageal, see localized, that is T1, T2 and T3 and T4A as well, we can do the surgery along with chemoradiation therapies. In locally advanced, we do the chemoradiation, specifically the T4A. And in metastatic, that is T4B and beyond, or M1 and M2 stage, we do the definitive chemoradiation. And we also do the palliative treatment, that includes the coated SEMS, the self-expanding metallic stents. A young female present with dysphagia for past 2 years. See, these words are keywords of the question. They show the dilatation of the esophagus with progressive narrowing of the distal esophagus. The treatment of choice, I told you, this is a case of ecclesia cardia, not carcinoma esophagus. See, you can get confused, so just look at the time period and the type of dysphagia specifically. So Heller's cardiomyotomy, myotomy will be the answer, along with partial fundoplication. Now these are some of the extra points regarding ecclesia cardia. Just have a look at these. Now let's come quickly to another topic, a very important one, GRD. 6 questions have been asked. More questions are asked in the NEET. So I'll quickly do this topic. First is the most important pathophysiological cause of GRD. See, the most important cause is transient lower esophageal relaxation, not hiatus hernia. This is a confusing, and many people marked when this question came in the INI-CT paper. So remember, this is the answer. Intermittent change in the LES pressure tone may be of ecclesia cardia. So in the explanation, they have shown that 90% of the reflex is in normal subjects or GRD patients. And hiatus hernia is not at all necessary nor sufficient to make the diagnosis of GRD. Now, the best test. Best means gold standard to diagnose the gastroesophageal reflex disease or to quantify the acid output. I just now told you it is 24-hour pH monitoring. In the first question I told you. This is the gold standard test for GRD. Now let's quickly do the investigations for GRD. The first is endoscopy. Investigation of choice is also endoscopy. And the gold standard is 24-hour pH monitoring. Here we look at the lower esophageal sphincter 5 centimeter and below that 5 centimeter pH, and we make out the Demister score. Now let's do the Barrett's esophagus. I have merged these two topics. So 2 questions have been asked. The diagnosis of Barrett's esophagus is made by demonstration of columnar mucosa. In the histopathology, what will it show? See, it will show intestinal metaplasia. Just remember that, till the JE junction, even below JE junction, we have the normal mucosa, that is the squamous cell mucosa of the squamous epithelium of the esophagus. And in the lower 1 centimeter and the whole of the GIT, we have the columnar epithelium, specifically in the stomach, because only this epithelium is able to resist the acidic pH. So Barrett's esophagus occurs because of the constant reflex of this acidic content into the esophagus. So with the constant reflex, the esophagus converts from squamous to columnar. So see, squamous to columnar is when we call it a Barrett's esophagus, and it shows 3 different types of changes, and these are metaplasia, dysplasia and anaplasia. These 3 will result into malignant transformations. And a very important point which has been asked in the NEET recently, what is not shown in the changes, metaplastic changes in the Barrett's? It is hyperplasia. Just mug up this point. Now another very unique question. Non-progressive contractions of the esophagus are tertiary peristalsis. Just look at this table. The primary contractions occur when the first time you swallow the food. In order to push that bolus, primary contraction occurs. These are progressive. Secondary contraction occurs when sometimes reflex occur in the esophagus, and now the esophagus wants to push that bolus again into the GI tracts. So that is the secondary contractions. And tertiaries are non-progressives and non-peristaltic, which simultaneously occurs between swallows. They give the appearance of corkscrew to the esophagus. Okay. And they don't have any physiological functions, and they are mostly observed in the elderly patients, or they become significant in the esophageal motility disorders like the DES. Now next very important topic is the diverticulum. 6 questions have been asked in 3 different ways. Which of the following is a true diverticulum of the esophagus? See, this question was very confusing because most of the students did not read the esophagus part, and they marked the answer as Meckel's, which is a wrong answer. The answer here is parabronchial diverticulus, because they have asked about the true diverticulus of esophagus, not of the colon or the small intestine. So the types of diverticulus in the esophagus can be pulsion and traction. Pulsion is when the push is from the inside, and traction is when the push is from the outside. When the surrounding structures get fibrosed, then the mucosa and the muscle layer can be pushed, and it can result into diverticulus. Just look at it. 3 parts have different types of diverticulus. The upper 1/3 has Zenker's diverticula as the most common, and this is the most common diverticulus of the esophagus as well. Now the middle 1/3 have both the pulsion as well as the traction type. In the pulsion, the most common is the parabronchial type. And this is the true diverticulus. Now what is the difference between true and the pseudo diverticulus? The true diverticulus where all the muscle layers are involved, and pseudo are the ones where only the mucosa or the submucosa is involved, like the Zenker's. So this one is the true diverticula, and traction occurs because of the TB. And in the lower 1/3, The most common type is epiphrenic, which is 5 to 10%. So you can have a look at this table. Now let's quickly look at the epiphrenic diverticulars, which are of the distal 1/3. They are pseudo or false or pulsion diverticulars, that is push from inside, and they are mostly asymptomatic, and if the symptoms occur, it is mostly dysphagia or chest pain. The investigation of choice is barium swallow, and manometry can also be done, and the treatment is either diverticulopexy, where we stitch these diverticulars here so that food does not accumulate here, or esophagomyotomy can be done. Read this topic in detail. Now another very important question which was asked in the PGI exam earlier, and it was between which two muscles does the Zenker's diverticulum occur? So remember, it was between thyropharynx and cricopharynx. There is a weak zone that is known as Killian's dehiscence, from which the Zenker's diverticulum can bulge out, and it will contain only the mucosa and submucosa and not the muscle, and therefore it will be a false diverticulum. Again, the investigation of choice for the diagnosis of Zenker's will be, I just now told you, for all the anatomical defects, be it Zenker's or tracheoesophageal fistulas or esophageal webs, the investigation is barium swallow. Just read, it's not a true. Neuromuscular incoordination in this region is the pathology, and most common symptom will be dysphagia. Now, a 40-year-old male presented with mild abdominal pain and constipation and tenderness in the left iliac fossa, the most likely diagnosis. Now this is a question of the Meckel's diverticulum, but if you're not able to guess it, then you can even exclude this question. Choices. See, in ulcerative colitis and irritable bowel disease, localized tenderness will not be there. In colon carcinoma, the age would have been more than 60. See, this is a 40-year, and that is why I tell you to read all the topic points of the question. So the answer will be diverticular disease of the colon. Now with this, we have completed most of the topics that are asked in the NICT paper from the esophagus section. For the PDF of this, just look at the Telegram channel, or you can look at the link in the description box. Till then, please like, share and subscribe my channel, and for part 2 of this section, look at the another video.